The stars had always been a mystery to humans. For thousands of years, people looked up at the night sky and wondered if they were alone. Some believed they were not. Others thought it was just fantasy. But then, one day, the truth came down from the sky. It started with a signal. A strange pulse came from deep space. It wasn't like anything scientists had ever seen before. It repeated every few minutes. At first, many thought it was just noise. But after weeks of study, experts realized something shocking. It was a message. Someone, or something, was trying to talk to Earth. Governments all over the world worked together to decode the signal. After months of effort, they found out where it came from. It was coming from a planet orbiting a star far beyond our solar system. The signal was a greeting. Then came the next step, answering back. Earth sent its own message, a simple one, a greeting, music, images of life on Earth, smiling faces, animals, mountains, oceans, cities, all sent into space through powerful radio waves. They waited and waited. Then one day, they got a reply. The aliens called themselves the Virex. No one knew how to pronounce it at first. Scientists tried different ways. In the end, most people just said Virex. That stuck. The Virex sent messages filled with light patterns and sound bursts. Their language was unlike anything humans had ever known. It was more like music than speech, more like art than code. Humans welcomed them. They prepared for contact. Scientists, diplomats, linguists, and even comedians studied everything about the Virex. They wanted to understand these new beings. One man who became very important during this time was Carl Briggs. Carl was not a scientist or a soldier. He used to be a stand-up comedian. He made people laugh for a living. He told jokes on stage. He made funny videos online. People liked him because he was kind and smart and could make anyone smile. But now he had a new job. Because of his ability to connect with people and his deep understanding of humor, he was chosen as Earth's ambassador to the Virex. Some people questioned the choice. Why pick a comedian? Shouldn't it be a serious diplomat? But others saw the logic. If the Virex didn't understand human emotions, maybe humor could help bridge the gap. So Carl went into space. Not alone. He had a team, scientists, translators, security. They traveled aboard a ship called the USS Liberty, a large peaceful vessel built for diplomacy. After a long journey, they reached the edge of the solar system. There, floating in space, was the Virex flagship. It was massive, black, smooth, shining like glass, no windows, no weapons visible, just silence. Carl and his team boarded the alien ship. Inside, everything was calm. Lights pulsed gently along the walls. Strange symbols floated in the air. The Virex were tall, thin creatures with glowing eyes, and skin that changed color depending on their mood. Carl introduced himself. He smiled. He waved. He cracked a joke. "Hi there," he said. "I come in peace, but I also brought snacks." Everyone laughed, except the Virex. They did not react at all. They listened carefully. They studied Carl. Then, one of them stepped forward. It spoke in pulses of light and sound. A translator converted the message into English. "We greet you. We are the Virex. We wish to learn from you." Carl smiled. "Great. Let's start with some basic stuff. Like, what do you think of pizza?" The Virex blinked slowly. One of them responded with a long series of tones. The translator said, "We have no knowledge of pizza. We request information." Carl laughed. "Well, you're in for a treat." For days, the Virex and humans talked, or tried to. Communication was hard. Sometimes misunderstandings happened, but overall things went well. Until one day, Carl was giving a presentation about Earth culture. He showed movies, music, and yes, even comedy shows. He played old clips of funny sketches. He told jokes. He danced a little badly. Everyone had a good time. At one point, he played a video of a cat falling off a couch. The Virex watched it 3 times. Then, one of them asked, "What is the purpose of this event?" Carl laughed. "There is no purpose, it's just funny." The Virex looked confused. "Why would you record an accident and call it entertainment?" Carl tried to explain. "Sometimes things are funny because they don't make sense. That's part of humor." The Virex fell silent. Later that day, the meeting ended early. The Virex said they needed time to process. Carl thought nothing of it. He was wrong. The next morning, the Virex sent a message. Their tone had changed. "You have insulted us." Carl read the message again. And again. "What?" he whispered. The Virex explained. "You shared content that mocks failure. You show weakness as joy. This is offensive to our species." Carl was stunned. "Wait, no, that's not what it means." But the Virex would not listen. They accused humanity of mocking their intelligence, of treating them like fools, of using nonsense to confuse them. Carl tried to apologize. He begged them to understand. But the damage was done. The Virex left the meeting. They returned to their ship, and then the worst thing happened. They declared war. Back on Earth, the news spread like fire. The Virex are attacking. No one believed it at first. How could a peaceful meeting turn into war so fast? But the Virex were already moving. Their ships appeared near Jupiter, then Saturn, then Mars. They fired powerful beams of energy. Human satellites exploded. Defense stations were destroyed. Earth was under attack. Governments called emergency meetings. Scientists tried to understand why the Virex turned against them. Some blamed Carl, others blamed the translation system. But none of it mattered. The Virex were coming. Humanity had never faced an enemy like this. The Virex ships moved silently. They were fast, strong, unpredictable. Human fleets tried to fight them. Fighter jets launched into space. Missiles flew toward the alien ships. None of it worked. Lasers bounced off the Virex hulls. Explosives barely scratched them. One by one, Earth's defenses fell. Cities began evacuating. People hid underground. Children cried. Parents held each other close. The world was scared. Then, someone had an idea. In a small lab in Colorado, a group of scientists had been working on something unusual, something strange, something ridiculous. They called it Project Whimsy. Dr. Linda Harper led the team. She wasn't a weapons expert. She was a psychologist. She studied how people think, how they react to fear, to joy, to confusion. She had been studying the Virex since first contact. She noticed something strange. They had no concept of humor. Not at all. They couldn't understand jokes. They didn't get sarcasm. They couldn't tell when someone was lying for fun. They took everything literally. Linda had an idea. What if that was their weakness? What if we attacked them with nonsense, with laughter, with the absurd? She proposed a plan to the United Earth Defense Council. They laughed at first. "Are you serious?" one general asked. "Yes," she said. "If they can't understand nonsense, then flooding their systems with it might overload their minds." Another officer shook his head. "That's insane." "That's the point," she said. After hours of debate, the council agreed. They approved Project Whimsy. Now the only question remained, would it work? On the battlefield, Earth was losing. But somewhere deep in a lab, a team of scientists powered up a strange machine. It looked like a giant speaker, but it wasn't just for sound. It was for memes, for jokes, for dancing cats, for TikTok videos, for everything weird and wonderful about Earth. They pointed it toward space and they hit play. In a quiet lab hidden deep in the mountains of Colorado, a strange machine powered up for the first time. It looked like something out of a science fair. Big speakers, flashing lights, tall towers with wires running everywhere. It made loud noises when it turned on, like a mix between a foghorn and a kazoo. No one was sure what to expect. Dr. Linda Harper stood near the control panel. She wore glasses and had messy hair from working all night. She was tired. but excited. Behind her, a small team of scientists watched the screen. On it, they saw data coming in from space. The Virex fleet was moving closer to Earth, fast. They were losing time. Linda took a deep breath. "Let's do this." She pressed a button. The machine came alive. From its giant speakers came music, loud and clear. First, it played a catchy tune, called "Never Gonna Give You Up." Then it switched to a funny video of a dog wearing sunglasses. Then a clip of someone falling off a skateboard, and then it got weird. The machine started showing videos of dancing potatoes, cats dressed as lawyers, people doing silly dances, jokes that didn't make sense, memes with text that said things like "hello there" and "this is fine." All of it was sent into space through powerful beams of light and sound. Project Whimsy had begun. Back at the United Earth Defense Council, people were not happy. General Marcus Cole paced back and forth in the war room. He was tall, with short gray hair and a face that always looked angry. "This is madness," he said. "We're wasting time with memes and cat videos while our planet burns." Next to him sat Carl Briggs, the former comedian who had accidentally started this whole mess. He shrugged. "I told you guys humor was powerful." Cole glared at him. "You also told us pizza would bring peace." Carl smiled. "Well, pizza helps too." Across the room, Admiral Karen Reyes watched a live feed from space. Her voice was calm. "We don't know if it's working yet, but we have no other options." Cole shook his head. "If this fails, we'll be remembered as the idiots who lost Earth to aliens using TikTok." In space, the Virex ships kept moving forward. Their weapons were ready. Their minds were focused. Then, without warning, their systems began to glitch. Lights blinked faster than normal. Warnings flashed across their screens. Strange sounds filled their command centers. One Virex officer stared at his display. "What is this?" he asked. Another officer pointed at the screen. "It is nonsense." A third one tilted his head. "Why are there cats dressed as humans? Why is the one in a suit pointing at a banana?" None of them could understand. The Virex did not have a word for funny. They did not understand jokes. To them, everything had to have meaning. Every action had purpose. Every word had truth. But now they were being bombarded with absurdity. Dancing chickens, people pretending to be rocks. A video of a man yelling "bananas" over and over. It made no sense, and that was the problem. Their brains couldn't process. Inside the Virex flagship, chaos began. Some officers laughed, though they didn't know why. Others screamed in confusion. A few tried to shut down the system, but the signal was everywhere. "Shut it off," one commander yelled. "We cannot." "Find the source," another replied. "Then destroy the speakers," shouted a third. "No," cried a fourth. "I think I just understood the joke." More and more signals poured in. Videos of people doing push-ups in socks. Songs about nothing. Memes that changed meaning every second. The Virex fleet slowed down. Then stopped. Then started turning around. Back on Earth, alarms blared. "Wait," said one scientist. "They're changing course." Linda Harper leaned forward. "Are you serious?" "Yes." "Look." On the big screen, the Virex fleet had broken formation. Some ships were flying sideways. Others were spinning in circles. "What's happening?" Carl asked. "They're confused," Linda said. "Our weapon is working." Cole stepped forward. "That can't be right. We hit them with dad jokes and potato memes. How is that winning a war?" Karen Reyes gave a rare smile. "Maybe the real enemy of war isn't peace, it's nonsense." Everyone stared at her. "Well," she added, "that sounded better in my head." In the Virex flagship, things were getting worse. Commander Zilar stood frozen at his station. His eyes were wide. His skin had turned bright red. "I think I'm dying," he whispered. "No," said another officer. "You're laughing." "I am not laughing. I am malfunctioning." "You are laughing." "I am not laughing." Then he burst into uncontrollable laughter. Around him, others followed. Some fell to the floor. Others clutched their heads. "Make it stop," one cried. "I don't want to laugh anymore." another begged. Then, suddenly, a new signal came through. It was a video of a baby giggling while playing with a rubber duck. The entire bridge erupted, laughter, screams, confusion. Zealer finally managed to speak. Call retreat. But Commander, call retreat. The order went out. Virex ships began pulling back. Slowly at first, then faster. Soon the entire fleet was fleeing toward deep space. Back on Earth, the war room exploded with cheers. We did it, someone shouted. They ran away, said another. Carl stood up and raised his hands. See? Told you humor was powerful. General Cole looked stunned. We won a war with memes? Karen Reyes nodded. Looks like it. Cole rubbed his temples. I need a drink. Linda Harper turned to her team. We should keep broadcasting, just in case they come back. Carl grinned. What should we play next? Linda thought for a moment. How about some classic sitcom reruns? Carl gasped. Brilliant, he typed in the command. The signal changed. Now, it played clips from old TV shows. Sitcoms where people tripped over rugs, where characters misunderstood each other for no reason, where logic was optional. The signal went out, into space, just in case. Later that day, the world celebrated. Cities lit up the sky with fireworks. People danced in the streets, kids played with toy spaceships and laughed. Carl became a hero again. Linda became famous. And General Cole, still in disbelief, sat alone in his office. He stared at a screen. On it, a video played, a penguin sliding on ice. He watched it once, then again, then a third time. Finally, he chuckled. Okay, he muttered. That was kind of funny. The Virex fleet was in chaos. After the strange signal hit them, their ships stopped attacking. Then they started moving away. Then they began flying in circles. Some even crashed into each other. Inside the command center of the main Virex ship, Commander Zealar tried to make sense of what was happening. His skin had turned bright red. His eyes blinked fast. He could not stop shaking. What is this? He asked, his voice full of fear. Around him, other officers stared at glowing screens filled with nonsense. One screen showed a man wearing socks on his hands. Another played a video of someone yelling spaghetti over and over for no reason. Third displayed an image of a banana taped to a wall. Zelar pointed at it. What? What does that mean? No one answered. They were too busy laughing, or screaming, or both. I do not understand, said Officer Trella, holding her head. This is not a battle. This is madness. Madness? Asked another officer. Is that the enemy weapon? Is that a new kind of attack? No, said a third. It is something worse. They all looked at him. He whispered, It is humor. Silence fell across the room. Then came more laughter. Some officers fell to the floor. Others clutched their heads like they were in pain. Zealer stood up straight. He tried to be strong, he tried to focus. We must shut it down, he said. We must block the signal. We have tried, said Engineer Dax, but it keeps coming through, stronger than before. Then destroy the source, Zelar ordered. There is no source, Dax replied. It is everywhere. Zelar blinked. That is not possible. It is true, said Trella. The humans are not attacking us with weapons. They are attacking us with ideas. More silence. Then came the worst sound yet. A video started playing on the main screen. It showed a baby dressed in a superhero costume trying to eat a spoon. Everyone watched, and then they laughed. Again, and again. Back on Earth, things were much calmer. In the war room, people watched live feeds from space. The Virex fleet was still retreating. General Marcus Cole sat at the table, arms crossed. He didn't look happy. I still don't believe this, he muttered. We beat an alien invasion with memes? Carl Briggs grinned. Told you it would work. You also told us aliens would love pizza, Cole shot back. Carl shrugged. Maybe they just haven't tried it yet. Across the room, Dr. Linda Harper checked the latest data. She smiled. Their systems are breaking down faster than we thought. Admiral Karen Reyes raised an eyebrow. You mean they're falling apart because of TikTok dances and cat videos? Linda nodded. Exactly. Their minds can't process absurdity. Every time they try to understand a joke, their logic circuits overload. Cole groaned. So we won the war by making them go insane? Linda gave a small laugh. Something like that. Karen shook her head. I guess the real message here is, never underestimate the power of nonsense. Carl raised his hand. Can I put that on a t-shirt? Meanwhile, back in space, the Virex were getting worse. Commander Zelar tried to regain control. He called for a meeting of all senior officers. They gathered in the central chamber. Every single one of them looked tired, confused, and, strangely, happy. Why are you smiling? Zelar demanded. Officer Trella wiped a tear from her eye. Because I just saw a dog ride a skateboard while wearing a hat. That is not important. But it was funny, she said. Zelar growled. We are at war. We cannot be distracted by silly images. Engineer Dax raised his hand. Commander, I think some of our crew have gone mad. Mad? Zelar asked. Dax nodded. Yes. One pilot changed his name to Captain Wiggles and started dancing around the engine room. Zelar looked shocked. What did you do? We gave him a medal, Dax said. For what? For being the first Virex to invent improv comedy. Zelar stared at him. Improv comedy? Yes, Dax said. He made up jokes on the spot. None of us understood them, but we laughed anyway. This is a disaster, Zelar said. Another officer spoke up. Actually, sir, morale is the highest it has ever been. Zelar blinked. Morale? Yes, the officer said. The crew is happier than ever. They are no longer afraid of dying in battle. Now they only worry about missing the next funny video. Zelar slammed his fist on the table. This is not what we came here for. Then suddenly the lights dimmed. A new video started playing. It was a clip of a man pretending to be a tree. He stood perfectly still. Then he moved. Then he said, I am not a tree. Then he ran away. The entire room burst into laughter. Even Zelar, for a moment, he forgot he was angry. Then he remembered. Enough, he shouted. Everyone stopped. He took a deep breath. We must fight back. We must show the humans that we are not weak. How? Trella asked. Zelar thought for a moment. Then he said, we will send them a message, a challenge. We will prove that we can understand their humor. Trella looked confused. You want to make them laugh? Yes, Zelar said. If we can create something truly funny, maybe we can defeat their weapon. There was a long pause. Then Dax said, Sir, I think I know how to do it. Everyone turned to him. He smiled. Let me write a joke. On Earth, the United Earth Defense Council was still watching. They saw the Virex fleet regroup. They saw messages being sent between ships. Then came something unexpected. A new signal reached Earth. It was a video. Everyone watched. It showed a Virex standing in front of a camera. He looked serious. Then he said, Why did the chicken cross the road? Pause. To get to the other side. Nothing happened. Everyone waited. Then Carl Briggs started laughing. Oh my gosh, he said. They tried to tell a joke. Linda Harper covered her mouth. It was so bad. Karen Reyes shook her head. They really tried. Cole looked confused. Did they just surrender or challenge us? Carl grinned. I think they're asking for a rematch. Karen looked at the screen again. Well, if they want to play games, let's play. She turned to Linda. Keep broadcasting. Let's see if they can handle more. Linda pressed a button. The signal changed. Now it played a new set of videos, stand-up comedy clips, silly pranks, animated cartoons, bad puns, jokes with no punchlines. Everything the Virex couldn't understand, and once again, their fleet began to fall apart. Ships spun in circles, officers screamed, others laughed until they cried, and somewhere, deep in space, Captain Wiggles danced alone in the engine room. The war was over. No one could believe it. The Virex had left. Their ships were gone from the solar system. No more attacks. No more strange lights in the sky. Just peace. And all of it happened because Earth hit them with nonsense. Memes. Jokes. Cat. Videos, dancing potatoes. It was the most ridiculous victory in history. Back on Earth, people celebrated like never before. Cities held parades. Kids wore costumes of Captain Wiggles. People made jokes about how the aliens couldn't handle dad humor. Everyone laughed. Even General Marcus Cole, who had been against the plan from the start, had to admit one thing. It worked. He still didn't like it. But he couldn't deny it. Carl Briggs became a hero again. After being blamed for starting the war, now he was being praised for helping end it. Reporters followed him everywhere. Kids asked for his autograph. He even got his own TV show, Carl's Cosmic Comedy Hour. He joked about it. I went from almost causing a war to hosting a talk show. I guess that's life. Dr. Linda Harper also became famous. She gave talks around the world about how the human brain works, about why humor is powerful, about how nonsense can break logic. She wrote a book called How We Won a War with Punchlines. It became a bestseller. Admiral Karen Reyes stayed in charge of Earth's defense. She made sure Project Whimsy was kept safe, not as a weapon, but as a tool just in case. In space, the Virex were not gone forever. They sent a message back to Earth. It was short. It said, "We surrender. Please send more humor, virus." At first, no one knew what to do. Then Carl said, "Well, looks like we need to negotiate peace and with comedy." So he went back into space. Not alone. This time he had a team. Scientists, translators, and yes, even comedians. They traveled aboard the USS Liberty, the same ship that had brought Carl to meet the Virex in the first place. When they arrived at the edge of Virex space, the alien fleet was waiting. But this time, there were no weapons, no loud warnings, no glowing beams. Instead, the Virex played music. It was a mix of Earth songs and Virex sounds. It sounded weird, but kind of fun. Carl stepped onto the Virex flagship once again. Commander Zelar greeted him. His skin was calm. His eyes looked tired, but friendly. "You have changed us," Zelar said. Carl smiled. "I hope that's a good thing." Zelar thought for a moment. "Mostly. Some of our people are still confused, others laugh too much. One officer tried to make a movie about a dancing banana. It was very bad." Carl laughed. "Sounds like Hollywood." Zelar blinked. "What is Hollywood?" Carl grinned. "Let's talk about it over pizza." Back on Earth, the world started to change. People began to see humor in a new way, not just as something to laugh at, but as a tool, a weapon, a bridge between cultures. Schools taught students how to use humor in diplomacy. Scientists studied how laughter affects the brain. Even robots were programmed to understand jokes. And the Virex? They became allies. Not right away. It took time. But slowly, they learned to understand humans better, and humans learned to understand them. The Virex started sending messages filled with their own version of jokes. Some were funny, most were not. One Virex comedian made a video where he stood still for 5 minutes, then said, "I am not funny." It became a hit among other Virex. Carl watched it and said, "That might be the saddest joke I've ever heard." Still, it was progress. Years. Past peace lasted. Earth and the Virex began working together. They shared knowledge, science, art, music, and yes, comedy. Carl became the official ambassador between the two species. He traveled between planets, making speeches, telling jokes, and eating lots of food. One day he stood in front of a crowd of humans and Virex. He raised his hands. "Friends," he said, "we started with confusion. We fought with fear. We won with nonsense." He paused. "But now we live with joy." The crowd clapped. Some of the Virex laughed, others tilted their heads. But everyone smiled, because they understood. One thing, laughter was stronger than war, and sometimes the silliest ideas win the biggest battles. Years passed since the Virex surrendered. Earth had peace. The aliens were no longer enemies. They were friends. Strange friends, but friends nonetheless. At first, Humans weren't sure what to do with this new situation. Should they keep Project Whimsy or shut it down for good? After long talks, the United Earth Defense Council made a decision. Project Whimsy would not be destroyed, it would be changed. Instead of being a weapon, it became something else, a tool for peace. They called it the Laughter Array. It was still powerful, still full of memes, jokes, and funny videos, but now, instead of being used in war, it helped prevent fights before they started, and Carl Briggs was put in charge of it. Carl wasn't just a comedian anymore. He was now the head of something called the Harmony Corps. It was a group of diplomats, comedians, scientists, and even teachers. Their job? To help other species understand each other, sometimes through language, sometimes through food, and sometimes through laughter. Carl loved his new job. He traveled between planets, met new aliens, told jokes, taught them how to laugh, and sometimes he learned from them too. One day, he visited a planet where the locals communicated only through dance. No words, just movement. Carl tried to talk to them. They stared at him. Then one danced forward. He did a spin, then a jump. Then he pointed at Carl. Carl blinked. Is that an invitation? Another alien stepped up. He wore shiny clothes and did a backflip. Carl grinned. Well, he said, I guess I have to dance. He tried. He wasn't very good, but the aliens laughed. That was all that mattered. Back on Earth, Dr. Linda Harper retired. She left her job at the lab. She moved to a small town by the ocean. She wrote books, gave speeches, spent time with her family. Her most famous book was still How We Won a War with Punchlines. It was now taught in schools. Kids read it in class. Teachers used it to explain how ideas can be more powerful than weapons. Linda didn't miss the lab, but she missed the excitement. So, once in a while, she would visit the Harmony Corps base. She'd check in on the Laughter Array, make sure it still worked, talk to Carl, laugh with old friends. She always said the same thing. We won a war with nonsense. And every time Carl would reply, and now we're keeping the peace with dad jokes. Meanwhile, the Virex kept changing. They studied Earth culture, learned about music, movies, games, and yes, comedy. Some of them even started making their own jokes. Most of them were bad, but some were actually funny. Commander Zelar, who had once led the Virex fleet into battle, now ran a comedy club on his home planet. It was called the Laughing Nebula. Aliens came from across the galaxy to see it. Zelar stood on stage. He told a joke. It went like this. Why did the space rock go to school? Because it wanted to be a star student. Silence. Then came the sound of laughter. Not from humans, from Virex. Real, honest-to-goodness laughter. Zelar smiled. He looked out at the crowd. I think, he said, we are learning. On another planet far away, a young alien named Zek watched a video. It was a clip of a baby trying to eat a banana. He didn't understand it at first, but then he saw the baby fail over and over, and he laughed. His parents looked at him. You are laughing? His father asked. Zek nodded. Yes. His mother smiled. You are growing up. Zek asked. Can I watch another one? His father sighed. Fine, but no more dancing potatoes. Zek cheered. He clicked play. The screen lit up. A new video began. It showed a man wearing socks as gloves trying to open a jar, failing again and again and again. Zek laughed. He didn't know why. He just did. Back on Earth, the Harmony Corps grew. More people joined. Comedians, actors, musicians, even chefs. They all helped spread joy across the galaxy. Peace missions were no longer just about treaties. They were about fun, about sharing stories, about making others smile, and when things got tense, when two groups couldn't agree, the Harmony Corps stepped in. They played a joke, played a song, showed a silly video, and somehow, things got better. Carl liked to say, you can't punch your way out of a fight, but you can dance your way out of one. People laughed when he said that, which was exactly the point. One day, Carl stood in front of a large crowd. He was on a floating platform above a city. Behind him, a giant screen showed images from the past. The Virex invasion, Project Whimsy, the UI, laughter array, peace. Carl raised his hands. The crowd quieted. He spoke. "We started with fear," he said. "We thought the unknown was dangerous. That difference meant war." He paused. "But then we found something stronger." He smiled. "Something simple." He held up a phone. He pressed a button. The screen changed. It played a video. A dog dressed as a lawyer arguing with a cat. The crowd burst into laughter. Carl waited for them to calm down. Then he said, "That was our weapon. That was our shield. That was our peace." He looked around. This world is full of different voices, different faces, different minds. He took a deep breath. "But if we can laugh together, then maybe, just maybe, we can live together." The crowd clapped. Some cried. Others just smiled because they knew. The silliest idea in history had changed everything. The galaxy was peaceful, not perfect, but peaceful. Aliens who once fought now shared meals. Planets that used to argue now traded stories, and humans, they were at the center of it all. Because of one simple truth. Laughter had become the most powerful force in space. Carl Briggs still traveled between planets. He visited new worlds, told jokes, taught aliens how to laugh. Sometimes, he even learned from them. One day, on a planet called Varnex 9, he met a species that communicated through smells. Yes, smells. Instead of talking, they released different scents to express their feelings. A happy greeting smelled like cinnamon, and our apology smelled like pine. And if someone told a really good joke, it smelled like fresh bread. Carl loved that planet. He spent a week there, taught them how to tell jokes without words, used gestures, facial expressions, even dance. By the end of the trip, the locals gave him a gift, a small device that could release a smell. When Carl pressed a button, it released the scent of warm cookies. Everyone around him laughed or sneezed. Either way, it worked. Back on Earth, peace was normal. People didn't worry about alien attacks anymore. They worried about school, work, and what to eat for dinner. Life went on, but the Harmony Corps kept growing. More people joined. Young kids dreamed of becoming intergalactic comedians. Some wanted to be diplomats. Others just wanted to make aliens laugh. One such kid was Danny Ruiz. Danny was 16. Smart, funny, full of energy. He grew up hearing stories about the Virex War, about how Earth won with memes, about Project Whimsy, about Carl Briggs. He looked up to those stories, wanted to be part of something bigger. So when he turned 16, he applied to join the Harmony Corps. Most recruits were older, but Danny was special. He had a talent. He could make anyone laugh, even robots. So they let him in. His first mission was simple: help settle a disagreement between two alien groups. Both claimed ownership of a mining planet rich in crystals. Talks had broken down. Fights almost started. So the Harmony Corps stepped in. Danny was part of the team. He wasn't in charge, but he had an idea. What if they tried something different? Instead of arguing, they played a game. A silly game. One where both sides had to act out funny versions of history. No weapons, no anger, just laughter. Danny stood in front of the group. He wore a hat shaped like a potato. "I know this is serious," he said, "but maybe we can take a break and then laugh." The aliens looked confused. Danny clicked a button. From behind him, a screen lit up. It showed a video. It was old footage of Carl Briggs telling a joke to the Virex. The crowd watched. Then came laughter. Small, at first, then louder. Danny smiled. He walked forward. He told a joke. Why did the alien bring a ladder to the party? Because he heard the drinks were out of this world. Some groaned. Others laughed. One alien spilled his drink trying not to snort. Danny took that as a win. He looked at the leaders. Maybe we don't have to fight, he said. Maybe we can just share a moment. Silence. Then one leader spoke. We'll talk. Danny grinned. That was all he needed. Minutes later, talks began again, this time with smiles. And every so often someone would say something funny, and everyone would laugh. Later that night, Danny sat outside the meeting hall. He stared at the stars. Carl walked over. He sat beside Danny. You did good today, Carl said. Danny smiled. Thanks. Carl looked up. You know, I never thought I'd be teaching others how to do this. Danny asked. How does it feel? Carl thought for a moment. Like passing the mic. Danny blinked. Huh? Carl chuckled. Comedy isn't about one person being funny. It's about giving others the chance to be funny too. Danny nodded. So, I passed the test? Carl grinned. You passed the beginning of it. Danny laughed. Carl stood up. He looked back at the building. Inside, peace was being made. Not with guns, not with threats, with jokes, with kindness, with nonsense. He turned to Danny. You're part of something big now. Danny stood up. I know. Carl patted him on the back. Welcome to the Harmony Corps. Back on Earth, Dr. Linda Harper read a news article. It showed a picture of Danny Ruiz. She smiled. She put the tablet down, looked out the window. The ocean sparkled under the sun. Peaceful. She whispered to herself, We did it. Her dog barked. She laughed. Outside, kids played. They chased each other, screamed with joy, laughed at nothing. Linda sighed. This is the future, she said. The age of peace. And pranks. She paused, then added, especially pranks. In deep space, far beyond known worlds, a signal floated through the stars. It was weak, old, but still moving. It carried a message. It was playing a video of a man dressed as a chicken trying to fix a spaceship. He failed, over and over. Each time, he said the same line. I am not a bird, I am an engineer. Then he fell over. The video looped, and somewhere deep in the dark another ship picked up the signal. On board, a crew of unknown aliens watched. They tilted their heads. One pointed at the screen. What is this? Another answered. I think it is a joke. The first one blinked, then laughed. The second laughed too. Soon the whole ship was laughing. They didn't understand everything, but they understood enough. They sent a reply, a message, just 3 words. We are listening.